start this recording. A rundown of the themes that we covered at our last meeting. Just a little quick recap. First impressions, we're focusing on the visual appeal of Ogallala and the Keith County community. What can we do to improve that first impression to visitors and also some of our residents here. So Nicole, I'll kick it over to you, talk about the agenda and some of the themes that we walked away from after our last discussion.
All right, thank you, Mary, and good afternoon. My name is Nicole Sedlacek. I am an economic development consultant with Nebraska Public Power District, and many of you I have met and have spent a few hours Zooming over the last few weeks, but glad to be back with you again. So today we're gonna just do an overview of what we heard from themes that came out of that last or our first impressions session that we had. And then kind of do a recap, share with you the themes that we heard from that meeting. And then our next steps will be really to kind of what is it that we want to identify to tackle and really kind of create as a goal or goals moving forward in this first impressions category. So when we met last time, Mary had lined up Jen McCune from COZAD, who really shared kind of her experience with why first impressions are so important. And she had shared from the perspective of a business recruitment project that she thought was going well, but then the company came back and said that your community just doesn't show well. It didn't have the curb appeal. And so Jen really used that as a learning opportunity to create this first impressions project, and her and Mary have been kind of visitors, maybe back and forth between their communities. And what they learned is that people really expect community websites to have that theme and that branding that's really kind of that feel that when you're in the community, it kind of has that same feel and brand online as well. We also heard about making websites unique. You know, there's thousands of great places to live, work, and play when you Google that. We also kind of heard about thinking about your entrance into your community. I liked how Jen described the entrance into your community is your front porch, and thinking of your downtown as that living room, as a place that you want to invite people in and to be comfortable. She also, I kind of chuckled at this, that we are in a selfie world, that people are looking for those opportunities to take selfies of themselves or to do those picture moments to really show that, like, hey, I've been here. And the really great piece of advice that she shared with us all was don't underestimate the power of little projects to help with first impressions. The example that she gave, they had spent $750,000 to help develop a piece of property to attract new business investment in their community. No one said thank you after the committee and the city had done all of the work to invest and get that site ready for development. But across the street from that property, they had put up a welcome sign. And everywhere she was going, people were stopping and telling her thank you for putting up that welcome sign. So it's really those little projects that can make really lasting impressions for not only your current residents, but prospective residents and visitors into your community. We heard several themes, and I'm just going to share my screen with those themes that we did hear. All right. So the themes that we heard from that first session were, I asked you, those that were on the call, what looks and feels different 5 years from now in Keith County? We heard cohesive branding, online marketing. We heard a lot around art, greenery, and trees being a priority. Signage and mapping. We heard about kind of wayfinding, but that was discussed a lot of being able to provide signage and mappage for people that are in the downtown area and knowing this is where you go to maybe get to this destination. We also heard about buildings being utilized and properties improved. Oh, and then that's just a typo where I have map on there twice. Any questions and I want you to encourage you to open up your mic or feel free also to put in the chat box any questions or anything else you would like to add to this list of themes that we heard. Anything we may have missed for those that were on that call?
I think there's someone said, oh, you have art. Murals was very specifically said last time we talked.
Yep, I'll put murals specifically. Okay, good. Any additional thoughts? Well, when we did, so you guys in some ways jumped ahead on that last call because we'd like to kind of guide you next on the process of what would be, which theme on here would really be that big easy win that if we were able to direct time and resources towards would really be the least amount of ease and really a high impact. And in some aspects on that last call, there was a lot of conversation and consensus around art. That being, it sounds like there's already a committee maybe in the process of working on that. But as you're seeing these themes, what do you feel what would provide what would be maybe the easiest project or theme to work towards with a high amount of rate of return?
Nicole, I think that the art and murals piece is something, we all understand how to use a paintbrush and that can create a big impact. But I think that almost goes hand in hand with the wayfinding project that Chris Vail shared. How can we come up with a plan, some sort of a county-wide mural and wayfinding project where those efforts work together cohesively? I don't know, those are my thoughts. I don't know if anybody else has.
I certainly agree with the murals. I think that's something that we really could focus on. I know, Mary, I've sent you some emails, just of some examples. One thing that I did notice driving into town from the interstate, one of my big things that I'd like to see accomplished is a huge mural on some of the elevators. I think that really draws attention, but I will tell you that you cannot really see those elevators driving into town. So that would be something pretty much for the community. I'm huge on the huge murals on the elevators and then also murals downtown, any of the buildings, alleyways. When you're coming off the viaduct, the buildings on the side, I think that the building to the left, when you're looking west, that'd be kind of nice to have some Americana type mural. Also the one on the right, I mean, we got a good start on that building, but I just think we need to bring some color and happiness in our community. And I think that'd be a good start. One thing, I looked at the elevators down on Railroad Street. I did notice that beside the VFW, there's some parking there. I haven't checked into it, but that might be a good opportunity to maybe direct parking. If you had a big mural painted on that elevator, you could direct parking there and people could walk over and take pictures. Just doing a little research around town. It's just something I want to throw out there and get everybody else's thoughts.
Thank you, Tina. And then we also did in the chat box did have Richard share a gateway sign welcoming people to Ogallala.
This is Pam. Um, I agree with the visual arts wholeheartedly. I think we could take it even a step further to have interactive art. An example would be Mason City, Iowa. They have about 25 bronzes throughout town placed strategically with their signage so that it takes you intentionally through the town. It's a brilliant idea, and all of those bronzes are on loan. Each year, they have the town vote on which one they may or may not want to. They may not want to at all, but they might want to purchase one, and they've done that with their community funds in the past. But it's a great idea, and some of that, those bronzes were interactive musically. It was really cool.
I really agree with Pam. I think any art that we have in town, murals and the interactive art, if we did statues, something, I think there would have to, you could do a cute little map into the town, you know, where all of our locations are, you know, the mansion, the Boot Hill, but specifically downtown and wherever we would have those. I think that's a great idea.
This is Sally. Can you hear me?
We can, Sally, yes.
Okay, great. In Amarillo, Texas, they have little herds of black and white cows along their interstate. So when you turn off the interstate, you see a herd of cattle, which is a real attraction. And since we're the cowboy capital, also in Amarillo, Texas, they have the big boots on the corners that have been painted, like the one we have at Petrified Wood Gallery that Lisa Norman did years ago. And they also have horses that are life-size horses that are very colorful. So maybe we could get a cowboy capital and some of the cattle, the horses, the boots.
Sally, Jen McEwen and Kozad shared something similar to that on our first call, that creating a community icon. Kozad did that with a paintbrush and color palette. And she said that it was really successful, and they ended up making some money on the project. But yes, I think that that's a wonderful idea. I love it.
And I think another thing we could utilize is the visitor center out there that's so popular, that people have come to in the past, that's been redone, that's not utilized now. I think that it's an attractive place, and maybe we could utilize that more for people coming off of the interstate to give maps and et cetera at that location. And I know it takes people to staff it, but I think that's one place where we're missing, is not utilizing that visitor center.
So a lot of great
Sally-
conversation. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I just wanted to clarify, is Sally, are you talking about the one that's out by Casey's, or are you talking about the downtown old Shell station?
No, the one that's out by Casey's that they've redone, that you can stop in there, find out information. That might be a good place to put our maps. They had cutouts of faces that you could take pictures there, and it's not being utilized now. And I think maybe that's some way that we could sell our community and our town. Just a thought.
Great. Thank you, Sally. So we're hearing a lot and discussing a lot around art. Do we want to frame a goal statement around art specifically to continue moving it forward? So specifically, and this, what I have highlighted and in red is just the start. So really kind of putting a time frame around what you want to do in regards to, there's a lot of great ideas, but just putting something out there and time specific, that by spring of 2021.
Greenery and art and wayfinding are all one thing.
Say that.
Am I on or?
You're on now. Go ahead and say
Oh,
it.
I would like to, this is Rod, I just wanting to say that I think wayfinding with the idea of the maps, any kind of visual art, including additional sculpture, which I'm a big fan of, and the greenery all go together. I think those should be considered, in my opinion, at least one item. We already have some artwork started. We have some murals started. We have some greenery started. So it just seemed like it'd be a great thing to do together with the wayfinding.
From a time frame perspective, with some of this already starting and some of it maybe needing to get started, what's a realistic deadline or goal to have it completed by?
Can I say something about stuff that we've already done?
Absolutely.
Because what I hate to see, and I see this in a lot of instances where we get a lot of people together, we have all these great ideas, and we realize that a lot of this stuff has been completed previously. For example, can you read that, or is it backwards?
No, it's coming across good.
So we have actually created a whole, I think Sally's seen this, but this is a whole presentation on how we can do this with other companies. I actually consulted with a company in Colorado, and I'll get their presentation here. So they created a whole presentation for us and showed us what everything was going to cost and how much. And initially, this is a wayfinding program that basically you have a gateway that identifies features, wayfinding, concept designs, everything except the actual implementation and purchase of signage. This gentleman, which is called Inherent Character, is the name of the company in Colorado. And they have done signages for the city of Lakewood, the North Art District, which is the Rhino area, North Denver, Larimer Square. So they've done a lot of areas that we're familiar with. And his total cost to just do data collection, inventory and assessment, gateway identity and features, and wayfinding master plan, gateway identity features, wayfinding design, refinement, and final design. He came up with a total cost of actually coming to us with a presentation of $21,500. So, and that was 2 years ago that we started working on this. So it's some of this, what I hate to see is if we do work that's already been done, why we don't need to repeat stuff. And this group that I worked with was Rod and Carla at the chamber. That was and Sally's familiar with it. And I also believe that Angie. Oh, Sue Schills. Sue Schills. So I'm more than willing to say, hey, whoever wants this, come look at it, at least take it, because it is work that's already been done for the benefit of what exactly we're talking about. So that was just my thought, is to say there's a bunch of people that have done some work. I know there's also people that have talked about some of the murals in town. Look at Oshkosh. There's a wonderful woman in Oshkosh, and her name is Lauren the Whiplash. And she's really done a great job in Oshkosh with a lot of their murals around there too. So I think murals are great because it updates buildings, it makes buildings look as if they're taken care of too. Even if they're old and ugly, if you have a mural on it, it turns it into a piece of art. So that's just something I wanted to share with you guys.
Christine, would you mind sharing those first couple of images that you held up to the screen? I have received a comment that they weren't able to be seen by others since I was sharing my screen. Thank you.
So that one basically says, welcome to Ogallala, Nebraska, gateway to Lake McConaughey. That was a thought, or gateway to the Sandhills, or gateway to South Dakota, or, whatever. And then this whole presentation was basically, because it was in the idea of wayfinding, it's how can we help you get around? And I think that is one of the most important things that we need to do as a community to identify who we are, is when they come off that interstate and they go across the bridge and they come down into the town, what they see is really not very attractive. So again, this is just part of this program. And Mary, I think you have this too. But as you can see, they come down the hill and what do they see? Nothing that's attractive or even tells you where to go. So again, we need to show our tourist destinations. You know, when they pull off the interstate, they should see a sign that says, right, go to Petrified Wood Gallery in Front Street, left, go to the what's on the left? A&W. Go shopping to the town, and, you know, signs to show where the downtown is. I've had many people tell me over the years, they'll drive right through Ogallala and not even know we had a downtown until they went to leave. So I think that's also a concern. We need to get the lake people that are coming through town to stop at other businesses besides Safeway and Walmart.
Chris, exactly what you said. We are not having these conversations to duplicate efforts or redo things that have already been done, right? Shedding light on the work that you have done 2 years ago. How can we bring that to the community and say, okay, is this relevant? How is this relevant? How can we take pieces of what has been done and combine them with these visions that the community is sharing and come up with this cohesive plan to address wayfinding, murals, greenery, trees, all at once, right? And have something that everybody is behind and everybody understands, and we're moving in the same direction. So absolutely, all the work and everything that has been done prior to this is relevant, needs to be at the table and a part of this discussion. Absolutely.
So how could that continue to be moved forward? Do you need additional resources? Do you need more people, more manpower? How could we continue moving the wayfinding project, art, greenery all together? How can we continue moving that forward?
I feel like there are some organizations that can almost step into those leadership roles, right? Identify, we have the group that Chris has been working with, Chamber Tourism Committee, the Arts Council, possibly the City of Ogallala, County Commissioners, whatever organizations, foundation, citizens that are interested, but we all get around the table and say, okay, here's our ideas, here's a plan for a cohesive countywide mural project. What are we going to highlight? What makes sense? Where should we place these murals? Where should we place these green spaces? Where should we plant trees? Where do these signs need to go? And all of these plans come together for one massive project. But that's not for me to say, hey Chris, you need to do this, right? Or hey Arts Council, you need to do this. I want everybody to organically say, hey, this makes sense and we're really excited about this. Yes, let's put our time and energy and knowledge and expertise into these types of projects.
I think the number one hold up on this is, first and foremost, who takes the lead, because whoever takes the lead is going to have to be an organization that's eligible to get grant funding. So it either needs to be a nonprofit or political subdivision. So those are two things that I think are important. The other thing is I think we need to bring to the table. I know I have my ideas, and they're not the only ideas. I think we need to bring some other people to the table, i.e. business owners, especially downtown business owners. What can we do to get more people into your downtown businesses? The lake is not having any problem. They're so busy out there that we do need to kind of funnel stuff back. And how can we do that? I know that at one time they created some signage out there in the North Business Park that it had all the little businesses that were in town. So when you're coming into town, you can see it. But the problem is people don't see it until they're leaving town. So we need to find a way that when they get off that highway, whether they're getting off in Brule or whether they're getting off in Paxton, because a lot of people get off in Paxton, that they're seeing that they're coming to this environment and there are many things available here.
Nicole, is anyone anyone on screen that's been to Sydney, you've seen the signs on the interstate telling you that you're going to exit at this particular number. Well, that Ogallala would be 126. Paxton would be a different number. Brule would be a different number. But the signage for Lodgepole and for Sydney, Cheyenne County, is all significantly the same. And they're basically saying at this section, at this number of the interstate, you're going to find lodging and meals and whatever. Potter is even listed as a place that has more than just a place to tie up your horse and buggy. There's actually, duck pinball there, which is
Duck pinball?
yes. Don't worry. Don't ask me about that later. There's every little community on our interstate has tried the same thing. How do we stay alive? How do we make ourselves more relevant to the person who's just trying to fly over in their Maserati or their Ford? Because there is a reason for the Flyover Brewery in Scottsbluff to exist now, because this is the country that everybody wants to fly over. Well, we're trying to make them slow down and pull off and try the best burger in the world, or find the most interesting artistic community between Omaha and Denver, or Los Angeles and New York, if we want to get real crazy. I'm thinking it'd be a real snap to spend a little bit of time with sculpture becoming a real big deal here. We already have the best hidden $500,000 sculpture in America, probably up on Boot Hill. And I like the location of that, but I think we should have about 10 more equally magnificent. And one of the sculptors grew up in Lexington and lives in Elkhorn, and he's doing a nice display out at Chimney Rock. And I think, we talk about people that have talent in our community. We don't have to go outside our county to find extremely talented people, but those talented people come through Ogallala and Paxton, and they go to Lemoyne and they go to Keystone. But why not let them stop here and become part of our expanded community? My rambling, I apologize for, but I'm excited about even just being invited to be here. You've got greenery grants that are readily available throughout the entire year, and we should be looking at making application for some additional trees. But we need to have a plan to do that. We need to have a plan that says, how many new trees do we want to install, and who's going to take care of them, and where's the money to do that? We should be thinking about another major sculpture. I love the idea that Pam Abbott brought up about, was that Mason City, Iowa? I believe it was. It said, let's have 10 or 15 or 20 sculptures on loan and decide which one we want to buy each year. Mm-hmm. Wow. Especially if some sort of money pool is available for that. And obviously that's what we're looking at. If this is to be our front room, then why not make it inviting? I know in landscaping, we say, put something attractive and interesting up by your front door so people will know that's where they're supposed to come. Do the same thing as we come into town. Let's have things that are beautiful and unique and attractive. I'd love to see my neighbors to the south of my shop have those beautiful old granaries painted, and I can still see a little girl with her cheeks all covered with those little black dots or brown dots.
Freckles?
Mine are age spots, but yeah, but age spots, freckles, thank you. Freckles across the bridge of her nose, and she's got her pigtails blowing in the wind, and she's blowing a dandelion across the entire expanse of those as you're coming into town. Something that says, welcome to Ogallala, exit 126. Glad you're here. We have horses and cowboys and some old tired shrubs at 3 of our 4 entrances to Ogallala that were done years ago, a long time. And I know when they were done, but it's been a while. And it doesn't say welcome to Ogallala. It just says Ogallala. It just says, we don't care if you're here or not. I mean, there's so many things that could be tweaked, and that would be a good place to start. Thank you for allowing me to ramble. I'll stop.
No, all good conversation and really good dialogue today. So thank you. So we do have some activity in the chat with some ideas about, getting that trail, a safe trail from the lake to downtown. That's a really great idea. Tina has asked if anyone can think of anyone in Nebraska that has a large mural on their grain elevators besides the flag in Chapel. And then Lisa did respond that yes, Omaha did. I think it was Schooler Green that maybe had some elevators there, but then yeah, the maintenance challenges there, but they're no longer there. So as I'm kind of hearing all of the ideas, and I don't know if the community has ever done this before or a region, so I'm just going to throw this out there. And but there's a lot going on currently, and there's a lot of ideas. And some of these ideas are small, easy steps and wins, and then others are going to require either significant time or significant dollars, and then just either participation from political subdivision like the city or a nonprofit. But is there an opportunity to do cities do them all the time with comprehensive planning, but is there like an arts type opportunity to do kind of a master planning for what you want to do, and really identifying, okay, in the first year, this is what we want to do. By year 3, this is where we want to be. And year 5, this is our goal to achieve, and really breaking it up that way. Do you currently have that in place, or is that something that we could kind of talk about building if you don't have it in place?
Nicole, is that, early steps of that specifically for this first impressions mural, green space, signage piece, basically sitting down with a map and saying a mural would make sense here, let's add a green space here, we need a sign here, identifying those spots and breaking that into maybe areas, saying, okay, phase 1 of this improvement, we're going to hit this area or these specific signs, murals, green spaces. Phase 2 looks like this, phase 3 looks like this.
Right, yes. Yes.
So to answer your question, no, I don't think we have anything like that, but I think that maybe that's the first step to planning this easy win, right? Taking the information that Chris has, looking at where murals make sense, where signage makes sense, where green spaces, more trees make sense. And in essence, you have a map of Oglala, you have a map of Paxton, a map of Brule, and okay, how do we start planning these things?
We also have another starting point in the previous downtown revitalization plan.
Agreed. Yes.
I'm going to say that too. And then of course, that on that map to be developed would be our existing asset map of what we have.
Well, I'll say something about murals. We have been, Dave Barrett, who everybody else has the building down here at the bottom of the overpass. And he was working with Kate Witt, who did the mural behind Driftwood, to come up with maybe a mural for his building. But, it's a lot of money and he doesn't really want to pay it because he thinks it'll, it's good for everybody. But I can kind of hold it up to see if you can even see it. Oh, happy Halloween.
Oh.
I don't know if you can see that very well.
Move it just a little closer, Bruce. There you go. A little better.
I don't know if you can pull it up on your screens big, but anyway, it's bright, very colorful. But the cost is $15,000. And so I think the city would be willing to participate, but we really don't want to pay for the whole thing. Anyway, so that's what we have an idea for a mural, or that's what Dave came up with, and Driftwood's mural's beautiful behind there, and so it's the same person doing the artwork.
Well, to me, that's an easy place to start. That's an easy win. You come into town, you see Dave's building, exactly what you're saying, Bruce. I think that'd be an excellent place to start. And in all reality, $15,000, that's to me not an ascertainable goal at all.
I think you could take it a step further at that location too and add a tree, a little bit of a bench or a green space or something, just to kind of make the existing rocks and weeds look a little better.
I'll jump in here too. This is Tori Gingenbaugh. I was just going to say, I think that's a great idea, because I think if you could invite people to get out of their car, there's a way to park and, you know, walk around there, and they want to take pictures, they want to tag, they want to show people on social media where they're at. So I think anytime you can bring in some things that you guys talked about already, like statues or things to go online, or either things, you know, on sides of buildings, painted on sides of buildings. We've talked about adding something, you know, on our giant wall there that we have that faces the north, to try to get people to stop and take a picture in front of that, kind of invite them out of their car, you know, to walk downtown. So we're open to ideas for that space as well. So even if you couldn't do statues or something like that, if you could use buildings and maybe paint, if that would be more inexpensive or something along those lines, and have people wayfind those areas and take pictures, that kind of thing with it. So just a thought, but I really like a lot of your ideas. This is a productive meeting for sure.
Not to be the devil's advocate here, but we talk about these green spaces, which are absolutely a huge attraction, and they're very much so needed. It isn't so much the initially putting them in, it's maintaining them. And so that looks at a huge, you know, who maintains them and to what degree, you know, so that's another hurdle, if you will, to definitely overcome. I mean, you know, if the city said, you know, and I don't know, obviously, but say the city's going to do it, well, they're already taxed pretty hard with what they have to take care of now. You know, that's just, it's a trickle down effect, and that's something that definitely, you know, whatever we put in, whether it's a statue or a mural or whatever, there's going to be maintenance with it. What we don't want to do is put it in 5 years from now, have it look, you know, not taken care of, shabby, whatever you want to call it. And so that's actually, to me, a bigger step than getting it put in, is maintaining it, of whatever that may be.
Having that plan.
Yes. You know, like I said, I'm not trying to be the devil's advocate by any means, but, you know, there's things that we've talked about, you know, what was put in a long time ago, and it just doesn't look maybe the way it should now, you know, for whatever reason. Well, that's a maintenance issue. How are we going to, what's our plan, or what are we going to come up with putting all this in to keeping it looking the way that it needs to?
I guess I would say that, is there any way to reach out to each local business that is, say, getting either a tree or a planter box in front of their business, and encourage them to help maintain it? If you spread the maintenance between all the businesses in town that might benefit from it, maybe people would take a little bit of ownership of that particular tree or that particular plant and walk out and water it once a week to help out. Because I agree, it might not be feasible for the city to do it, but it is feasible for every business owner in town to think, hey, I want my city to look better for more tourists. Maybe I should go water my tree.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think it's just something that, you know, have to get definite communication and get that involvement, kind of spread it all around. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. But how, I'm getting at.
I will tell you from my position as Keep Keith County Beautiful's director, for years, we sent letters out to the businesses, and we would say, here's your planters out front. We're going to go with the Grow Big Red color. I would contact the local, at that time it was like Shopko and Alco, and everybody's saying, make sure you have red flowers because that's our color this year. We also I went around to all the businesses and said, hey, these planters that are out in front of your businesses actually belong to the Chamber of Commerce. As a matter of fact, the Keith County Area Leadership class a couple years ago painted all of those. The mauves and the greens and the beiges. So every business that has those in front of them, they have been asked to take care of them. If they choose to do so, that's their prerogative. I mean, we really can't enforce anything because they are publicly, they're privately owned, but in public spaces. Now, I know with the bump outs that we have in town, which I think is also part of the downtown redevelopment plan, those have actually turned out to be very, very, I believe, good for the community. I mean, you look at the ones that are out there, they have plants that are coming back year after year because when Rod planted them and who was it? Marty Mueller donated a bunch of plants to them. They were plants that came back every year. So this is the kind of stuff that we need to look at too in terms of our planning.
Sure.
But I also think the biggest issue that we have here is we all have a great group. This is a great group of people that are excited about our community that want to do things. But when we start talking about the financial aspects of it, that's where we really need to ask ourselves, what is our priorities? What is the most important thing? Do we need signage? Do we need a mural? To me, the most important thing that we need to do right now is we need to clean up our entrances. This whole thing started with Mary doing first impressions. Our first impression is when you get off that interstate, it's not really attractive. So then what do we do? So then then you have to look at, well, that land right off the interstate is owned by the state. So we have a whole bunch of things that go into the planning and organization, because like Bruce brought up last time, not only do we have city, we have state, and we have federal regs. So all of those has to be complied with. And that's why our initial thought was to hire a firm to go in, even though it was $21,000, we could then come back and say, we know what this is going to cost us to do. We can put together a whole budget. So then when we go, because this is money that could be utilized from the improvement fund of the visitors committee. This is exactly what that money is designed to do, which is to educate and inform and build business. And so I think that if we sit down and we say, if we can come up with what are the 5 most important things, then we have a starting place.
Great, agree, thank you. So do we want to take time today to identify those 5 important things? I mean, I know we've covered a lot of ground in our last meeting and today. But what are those important things? We heard the themes of, and one thing that hasn't been brought up today is kind of that, we called it the cohesive branding and online marketing aspect too. Does that go hand in hand with this as well for first impressions?
Nicole, Lisa and I were able to sit on a site selector call webinar yesterday that talked about the importance of community marketing, your online presence as a community, especially in this COVID age that we are currently in. And they stress the importance of an up-to-date online presence, cohesive community websites, having something that links your county, your city, your schools, your economic development organizations, your chamber, something that connects those sites. That was the leading factor, your online presence and up-to-date relevance of what you're sharing online was one of the leading decision makers in site selectors choosing communities. And so while that may not be something that is the big easy, right? Something that we can accomplish easily. I think that it needs to be happening in the background as we're working on our mural art projects, wayfinding. That's your 2 to 3 year goal, right? Something that definitely needs to be happening at the same time.
Exactly. Thank you, Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Mary, Corey Crandall here. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, one of the things that kind of, you talk about art and, being, unique. We talk about, how the frontage, when you pull off the interstate, it's kind of tough to come up with something because of the way our whole interchange is set up. Chris mentioned, you got state regulations, you got city regulations, you got setbacks around the streets. One of the first things that you guys had mentioned, you go over the overpass and you could have the mural, okay, on Dave Barrett's building there. One of the things that I seen this summer that I thought was really neat to see is if you're on the lake, you could see Brian Fromm. He has a basically a house all by itself out. If you went straight out on Ogallala Beach Road, he had like 3 horses, and they're not bronze, but they were made out of steel, you know, and when you're on the lake, you could see those horses out there. And I don't know if anybody else had seen those pieces of artwork out in the hills there, but it was, you know, it's pretty impressive the way it looked, but not to be repetitive towards what he has going on. But the one thing that one of the places I look at, and I know this isn't directed towards downtown, but one of the things that I think about is when you're going towards the lake, you always look off to the left, just at the ball fields down in the lower portion there, softball fields, baseball fields, whatever they're used for. And I thought, well, maybe we could look at some sort of bronzes or something on the side hill out there that creates some sort of theme out where the fireworks are. Just an idea of a place to be able to, and not to try to force things, but that would be, you know, something unique for our community if we had something actually kind of massive out there that sets us apart a little bit.
Thanks, Corey.
Yep.
All right. Well, lots of really great ideas and some really good discussion. But let's try to identify specific goals that you would like to create today as part of this discussion. You know, is it developing kind of a master art greenery plan for the community and county, or is it a smaller one? When Bruce shared that picture of the mural, is that something that we'd want to identify as a goal and start working on? It's already in process, but could there be some additional help and resources that are needed to carry that to the finish line? So you kind of got maybe a short-term goal and then also a long-term goal that we could work on.
Well, even something along the lines of what Angie put in here, could we utilize some of the young people? Why couldn't we do a mural contest? That we have some really talented high school students. They actually, a couple years ago, made me a sign, "Leave only your footprints," a replica, and it's absolutely beautiful. And it was out of the high school. Again, maybe we could do it with our college students or an intern for the summer program, but create a fund that these guys would win the money to be the person that does it. Just another thought, because there's a lot of talented artists around here. You know, like I said, Oshkosh, that lady down there, she has just done a phenomenal job on 5 or 6 different buildings. And she's a teacher in the schools. I know we have art teachers in our schools that are really good artists too. So I think that the overall plan, first of all, we need an overall plan. And then we have 5 pillars or 3 pillars of that overall plan. And I think when Mary did the First Impressions booklet that she sent out, she addressed all the things that were problematic. So I think we should go back to the basics of what we started with and say, the first thing we want to do is create this overall new impression. And here's how we're going to do it. And then step up. One is the murals, which to me, art and murals and greenery all go together with the signage. But I feel the signage is probably one of the most important things, because when you get off that interstate, it's going to make you're making a judgment call as to which way you're going to turn and where you're going to go. You want to go golfing, you turn left. You want to go have dinner at Front Street, you turn right. So I don't think there's really nothing as we're getting off the highways directing us anywhere. That to me is our first issue. And the second one is to create that Ogallala is a welcoming community. We're not just a drive-by. We need people to stop and stay and visit. And I don't know how we get to do that, but I think the first way is to welcome them as they come in. Look at Brule. You pull into Brule and there's a little sign that says, "Welcome to Brule." When you leave, it says, "Thanks for visiting." We don't have that here. So I think that is another area we can improve on in Ogallala, and just try and reach out that we are warm and welcoming. We want you here, be a part of our community.
Thank you. Additional thoughts?
Another way to go about the murals or any of these projects, I like the idea of a contest and having people competing and trying to do the best one in town. Another way to approach it would be like a small grant competition. If there was a fund of money that different organizations or different clubs and groups that are individuals or businesses, whoever, could apply for funding to make a difference in whatever pocket of land they might have access to.
Thanks, Lisa. And Angela in the chat, is everybody familiar with the Youth Inspired Philanthropy Contest? If Angela, would you want to open up your mic and share that, please?
I'd be happy to, Nicole. This is the foundation has initiated this, and we have two wonderful teachers who are taking this upon themselves, and we're starting with 3rd through 12th grade. They will have $1,000 available to them to complete this. This will start January 23rd. They'll bring their projects to the library, to the Petrified Wood Gallery, I'm sorry, and then we'll choose 10 winners. And then the kickoff will be in February, and it has to be wrapped up by October. If they do not have mentors, Mary and Barb will provide mentors with them, and they've been going around to the schools and organizations to spread this word, and it's on the Keith County Foundation Fund website under youth inspired philanthropy. So it's very exciting.
It's very exciting. Very, very cool. All right. Any additional thoughts or comments or questions?
This is Pam. I guess I would add, I was also with Mary and Jacob and Mary Pierce at the COZAD visit last year, or whenever that was. It seems like a century ago. But one of the understated, impressible things that I left with was signage in their town that listed businesses, types of businesses, and it made you, and they had them categorized. That was impressive. We did talk about, of course, upkeep and management on a piece like that, but it still was interesting because it made us stop. We really did take note of it, and we did read those business names on there. Maybe, for example, that something like that could be incorporated. I know it's private property, but maybe that could be incorporated with a mural if it's decided to go on the side of that building where Dave's building is.
Thank you, Pam. All right. Well, again, lots of discussion. I don't feel like I've helped you kind of really frame a specific goal statement, but I we've talked about that master plan that really has the 3 pillars, and then I feel like you're getting there, and you've got a lot of things already in process. So it's are you guys all feeling comfortable and with next steps, or what needs to be accomplished or taken for next steps?
I would come up with some sort of group like Beautify.
You want to say it?
No.
Okay. Does this group think that it makes sense for us to have a smaller working meeting with organizations, individuals that are prepared to do the work? We can, as Chris alluded to, we need to make sure we have a 501c3 present. The city needs to be at the table, business owners, individuals from the tree board, the chamber committee, tourism committee. We put together a working group, and maybe our first step is to put together a map identifying areas where these things need to go. And once we have the outline of where we want to see certain things happen, then this delegation process can happen, and these roles can be further identified as we have this plan, right? I think we're all on the same board that this beautification needs to happen, and there's a million different ways to do it, but we need to take this first step and have this plan of what that looks like before we dig into the super specific details. What are the group's thoughts?
Harry, I think you are keenly in a position to be the one that takes the lead on this because you are already the 501c3. You have city and county, and you know, I see the college there and Keep Keith County Beautiful here. So you have a lot of the business leaders already involved with this group. I think what you need to, my thought would be create this group and then assign committees. And then in that committee where you have those various pillars of beautification, of signage, of greenery, of murals, and each one comes back to the table with, this is what we've done. I also think we need to start some timing on this, okay? We've been talking, I know we personally have been talking about this since you came out with your first impressions, which was 2 years ago. So again, we hear so many times, well, we've talked about that. People talked about doing that, you know, like the bike trail that they're talking about from the town to the lake. 5 years ago, Rod and our board of directors at Keep Keith County Beautiful, we became an Arboretum city with the city of Ogallala. So we wanted to design a path of trees that you could walk around. So there's a lot of things that are spread out individually that aren't put together in one. I think you could be the one that could pull this all together with your group, with your various groups that are focusing on their own thing. Because the biggest thing is, this is a big step. This is a big project, and it would be ultimately, I think it's going to be a couple $100,000 when you start doing every aspect of what you want to do. But the first step would be to get the players, get the commitment. You know, that's the other thing. How many times do we talk about stuff and then we go, oh, that was a great idea. See you, bye. So we need commitments and we need action. And I think you're at the right place to continue it. That's my impression.
This is Mary Jensen here. I can't speak for the Ogallala Regional Arts Council Board, but we are involved in the visual, performing, musical aspects of the arts. So I definitely think someone would like to probably have some input in the whole process too, and how it all plays out in Ogallala. But as I said, I'm not speaking for the whole board, but I'm pretty sure.
Thank you, Mary.
Mm-hmm.
I can second that for Mary.
Right. Well, next steps, Mary Wilson, I'll turn it over to you kind of to identify what those next steps can be, and we'll go from there.
Absolutely. So anybody is welcome to the table. Rod called me yesterday and said, I was invited to attend this webinar. Thank you so much for inviting me. And Chris, I'm sure that you reached out to him, and I said, absolutely, everybody is invited to the table. So through these conversations that we're having, if there are other individuals that express interest, I do not want anybody to feel excluded. The more people we have around the table, the better. So I just want to make that clear. These invites went out to, I believe, 402 individuals for these vision planning sessions. So we are not being exclusive by those that we invite to attend. So yeah, next steps, I think it makes sense for us to schedule that working meeting. So I will get together, I think the city needs to be heavily involved in this. So Bruce Smith and I will talk. Chris, we'll have a discussion, the tree board, business owners, and anybody. Tina, I know that you're very passionate about this as a citizen, so we'll have some discussions and schedule a working meeting to lay out those first action steps. So that's the direction I see this going. We will work to send out a recap of our discussion from today. All of that information, again, is posted on our website at kcad.org under the Community Vision Planning tab. We have recordings of our conversations, copies of the chat, and all the information that Nicole has compiled for us is there as well. So we're being very transparent through this process and encourage anyone to participate. So questions, comments, feedback that this group has today.
Well, the city, I mean, we're going to try to support as best we can. I think these are all great ideas, but we also have to try to push them forward a little bit.
Yeah.
So, but it is just really hard when you're having to deal with the state. And when you look at our interchange compared to most, we've got so much activity on both sides that there's really not a lot of land available to put things up, signage and things like that. Because then, you know, you're talking either state property or public property. So those are kind of some of the things that we're up against the wall a little bit, which is a good problem to have. You know, all of our land is not available. It's already gone. So, you know, we're trying to beautify things. I know we're working closely with Wilkinson on trying to clean up that vacant lot there. You know, we got the trees cut down. That's helped a lot, at least aesthetically. And I think there are plans in the works to do more there. So, you know, we can look at a lot of different things. And, you know, once you get over the overpass and you start going up A Street, then we take over and we can start doing some signage if we want to. But anytime you work on 61 or you work on 30, you know, then you're dealing with the state of Nebraska, and they're not the easiest people to deal with when it comes to signage and stuff, because that all falls under the Lady Bird Johnson Beautification Act. So they're really cautious on what they put out there. So, but we're here to help however we can assist, as long as it doesn't cost money. And I'm kidding about that. You know, I mean, we'll do what we can to help, but you know, we can't carry the water on everything.
No, and that's the purpose of this, divide and conquer together, right? We're all headed in the same direction, working on this together. So absolutely.
One thing that
I want to say just one more thing before we go. We used to have some very colorful banners as we came into town over the overpass. I mean, they were big and they had Boot Hill and they were very colorful. And when we put them in, I thought, oh, this looks so neat coming in, but they did not hold up. But that was something that was put on light poles. I think now we have small, I didn't even really realize they were there, but maybe some cut out of metal. But those colorful banners coming into town were kind of a welcoming thing, I thought, for a short time. So I think
Mary, they were very expensive. Those were very expensive, Mary. And they didn't last anywhere near what they thought they were going to, because I remember I was at the chamber at that time and everybody was so excited about them. I think they only really lasted 2 years.
Yeah.
So, but maybe there's a new material, you know, a Gore-Tex or something like that. That's something we because I agree. I thought those were very warm and welcoming and friendly. And it's like, hi, thanks. You know, we got all this stuff going on. So yes, I agree with you on that, Mary.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I wanted to add to the conversation is, you know, we've talked about creating a master plan and making sure we're all coordinated and you know, going in the same direction. And my only concern with that is that I hope that it doesn't keep anyone who has a great idea from acting on it now. I mean, if you've got access to a place that you can beautify, then go for it. If you've got a place where you can put a sign, call the chamber or call Chris and, you know, let them know that you can paint a sign or paint an arrow on the side of the building or whatever it may be. So I hope that, you know, while coordinating and getting us all on the same page is so important, I just hope it can also be time consuming. And so if there's little things that can happen in the meantime, let's get them done.
Absolutely.
Just a note on when you're talking about the banners going up and down over the overpasses. Carla Scott did present some new banners. She's looking at new material that was presented in front of the visitors committee last week. So they're looking at that. If you want to put in some input towards signs that you've seen in the past that worked, Carla would be glad to listen to any of your past experiences with those. But the signs that they did have up here this last go, they're looking for better materials that work with our winds and temperatures. So.
Thank you, Corey. Nicole, I don't have anything else. Do you have a wrap up or anything to add?
No, I just want to say thank you for allowing me to be a part of the facilitation process and for all of you being so open to turn on your mics and share your thoughts and opinions and ideas and energy for Ogallala and all of Keith County. It's been fun for me to facilitate the conversations. So I appreciate Mary and everything that KCAT has done and the Keith Area Community Foundation Fund. But yeah, this has been really great conversation. Even though we didn't come out with a clearly defined goal statement like I thought we might today, I think you're really on the right path with developing kind of this master plan and getting the right players at the table. So I hope you have felt that today's conversation was good, and then our last conversation, that it's been really productive time, because a lot of great energy and ideas have been shared. So thank you for sharing your time with us to gather some of this feedback today.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Goodbye.
Bye.